Welcome to the Wandering Road, a place where the unseen moves all around us. The stories you'll hear aren't just whispered legends. They're shadows that cling, footsteps that follow, and whispers that never fade. Every turn pulls you closer to the unknown, and once you've heard what waits here, the night will never feel the same again.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Wandering Road podcast. I'm your host, Chris. Unfortunately, Dean is preoccupied today, so he's unable to join us for today's show. But joining me today is a very special guest, JJRose777. Welcome to the show, JJ.
Thank you so much. Dean missed out.
Yeah, I know. He's going to listen to this episode. He's going to be like, oh my God, I have so many questions. And before we started recording, you and I talked for like a good 20 minutes. And like I said, I have a plethora of questions because you have a pretty hefty resume. And
Yeah.
I'm just intrigued to just start like from the beginning because you're a metaphysical teacher, you're a light worker, energy and entity cleanser, and what really like grabbed my attention was the term white witch. So like I would love to get into all of that today.
Yeah. I'm actually an all elemental solitary eclectic white witch. If you want to get real technical, because we all need all the labels now.
I mean, if you have it, just put it out there, you know? Like I think that's important to specify what. Just take me back to the beginning. Like how did this all start for you? So if you can recall, when was that for you?
Fun story. Mother's Day always goes celebrated bigly. It was when I was born. My mother went through 55 hours of labor to have me. I almost died multiple times. And here I am. I was born purple with a black mohawk.
Purple with a black.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing you made it because you're here now. Starting from that point, like what would you say like later on, like in your childhood, you kind of knew like, hey, I have some abilities or I noticed some things that other kids don't?
Yeah, so I'm the last of my line. So I come from very spiritually gifted people on both sides, going all the way back. And so if I came out with no abilities whatsoever, I would have known I was adopted, even though I still once in a while would think that. Look around and be like, are you sure I'm related to these people? So that being said, though, my whole family is like myself, and they helped teach and guide me because being a little child and having these abilities and living in the world in the time that I did when I grew up, where you couldn't say certain things, you couldn't talk about metaphysics without people freaking out. And so we had, a very private life at home that we talked about it. And then we had friends and family that we could discuss it with. And then we had how we acted to the outside world.
Did you ever try to talk to your friends about this stuff growing up? Or was it a strict, no, we do not talk about this outside of these walls?
I was trained not to, but there would be occasional times that, I just didn't know. Like sense of smell. I have a nose like a shark, so I can smell sickness. And I remember playing and there was this girl and she was near me and I was like, oh, you're sick. She's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, yeah, you have a cold. She's like, why would you say that? I was like, because I can smell it. Like, can't you smell that? She's like, no. And the next day she was out of school sick with cold. She didn't want to play very much after that. But I mean, it wasn't like weird enough that I got ostracized, but it was just enough that she was like, oh, that's weird. And that's very easy to say. I just have a really keen sense of smell. But like, I didn't know we weren't supposed to talk about it.
Right. Yeah, I could see how like a kid would be totally freaked out. It's like, you're weird. I don't want to talk to you anymore. You probably put a curse on me or something like that. That's what you probably thought,
Made a lot of potions in the yard.
With your sense of smell, were you able to like see things kind of like, I don't know how you would categorize them, like ghost spirits, otherworldly entities, or are we using different terms for the same thing, or do those different things actually exist?
Yeah, they all exist. It's just like seeing people, right? So there's humans, there's animals, there's trees, there's bushes, there's plants, there's human made stuff. And same thing in the entity world. I've always been able to see, I've had all my clairs my entire life. I never had a quote unquote spiritual awakening like everyone else did.
Okay.
I've had things pop up that maybe were new or different or like a new way to do them, but I'm not your average story like other people who had the spiritual awakening. And don't get me wrong, I love these stories. I've gotten to hold people's hands and go through them, and it's super cool to see the growth arc, but I've always been like this. I don't know what it's like to not be like this.
Okay. So I'm really intrigued by people that can see, like, I don't know a good word to categorize them, like entities or other spiritual beings. I don't profess to have any gifts or anything, but I can kind of feel like when something is off. So from your perspective, JJ, with you just having these innate abilities, did you have an instance where you saw something that just like made you uncomfortable or like made you question things, and then you just have to go about your day normally, like if you're at work or something of that sort, or just in your life in general?
I think it's more like the days when I don't see anything that weirds me out. Like the antithesis of everyone else's weird time is for me when things get quiet and nothing shows up. That freaks me out. I've had that a few times where it got real quiet, whether it was a full day or even a half a day. And that always makes me think like, okay, what's up? Right? Like, where'd everyone go? So to answer your question, yes, just kind of probably in the flip opposite way. With your grandma and the smell, that definitely can happen. I mean, if they're in the astral realm or any realm other than here in flesh, right? They're able to travel whenever they want, and they will pop up or send little signs when it's needed. Sometimes it's protection, sometimes it's a heads up of something to come, sometimes it's just like a comfort. There's always a reason though. So for me, what I've noticed is that it might not make sense at the time, but if you can log it and track it, it will start to make sense. I have a lot of things that happen constantly that do not make any sense at the time. I don't understand the message or why I'm dreaming it or what I'm getting. And then all of a sudden in a day or two, I'll talk to someone and, oh, that's why it was preparing me for this conversation, or it was preparing me to meet this person. Or for instance, something that happened today, it was preparing me that the collective was going to be bracing for an event that occurred today. And I couldn't figure it out. like, why does this keep coming up? And then this thing happened. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I can sense the collective as well. And the collective is all the people, right? And that are living right now. And so when there's a big event that causes an energy shift or an energy change, whether it's fear, panic, anger, whatever, even the good stuff, those of us who are super sensitive will feel that in advance. And it feels different than your own personal emotions, but I still, I am the psychic lead for a paranormal investigation group. So even myself, when I get these weird feelings, I go my little checklist. Am I hungry? Am I tired? Am I hormonal? Am I going through something emotionally that I'm repressing? All the things to rule out, is it something within me? And then, okay, is it someone in my inner circle? No. All right, let's go out a little bit wider and wider. And sometimes I'll just table it because I'm like, it's too much work, or I'm busy, I don't have time. And then the answer will end up coming.
Okay. And when you say the answer ends up coming, like a particular thing happens and then like you just connect all the dots?
Yeah.
Or do you get, okay, yeah. It's not like someone just from the collective pops up and says like, hey, this is coming. Just all these things.
If only they could send a clear, concise, that would be so much easier.
Right.
And sometimes they do, right? Like I've had very, very clear things, but usually it's very urgent. Like you need to put on the brakes now, or do not start the car, or do not go there, or whatever it might be. Most of the time though, it's these like roundabout little things.
Okay.
And the other thing that I notice, and this is because I work with so many people and I got excellent pattern recognition skills, I notice that people who, like yourself, saying, oh, I don't think I have any abilities, but everyone has abilities.
Yeah.
Some of them are dormant and latent. Some of them you've learned to just deal with a little bit differently. But if you really want to start opening up, and this is advice for anyone out there who that didn't ask for it, you're going to get it. Why not? That's why I'm here chatting. If you want to develop your gifts more, the first and foremost thing that spirit wants is for you to learn protection measures. And that is how to protect your own energy and how to protect yourself. And that's not because everything's mean and nasty and trying to come and get you. It's because if you can protect your own energy, they are able to work with you easier instead of you getting drained or bled dry, because they show up and you're the easiest food source for them to feed off of. So that's why I teach that specifically so much, is because once people start mastering that, all the other gifts just start showing up. And also think of it like, why do you put kids in karate or, self-defense classes when they're little? You do that to build their confidence level so that when they're older, if someone tries to bully them, they're not going to get pushed around. They're not going to get bullied. So if you know energetic and spiritual protection and defense, when you start dealing with the spirit world, you're not as scared. And a lot of them will not come through if there's fear. And I've had some of them show up. I've had some of them show up. And listen, not everything over there is pretty, and not everything over there is shiny and rainbows and all adorable. Some stuff, it's not cute. I'm just going to be nice in our standards, right? In human standards. It's not what we would necessarily consider to be pretty or nice to look at. But it doesn't mean that they're negative. That's just what they look like. Like to them, they're great. They're a 10. But to us, we're like, oh no. So if you already know within yourself, okay, this thing's a little scary to look at, I'm going to, throw some light at it. I've got my bubbles up. Like I'm firm, I'm good. And it's not phased at all. Then you're like, okay, hi, who are you? Obviously, you're not scared. So I know I can protect myself. Now, what are you and why are you here? And then you can have a conversation.
Key thing that you said was protecting yourself. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of people, and I know a lot of people that say, okay, in order to protect yourself, you need X amount of crystals. It has to be this certain type. But from your experience, is it a mindset? Like, how do you go about protecting yourself?
Well, first of all, I was taught, by generations upon generations of knowledge of what works. And then you have to start enhancing it because we live in a different world, right? So like what my great grandparents were doing is far different than what we deal with today. They didn't have the internet, and they weren't barraged with online and a global civilization. They just had kind of, where they lived, their locale. So, I've had to enhance it even more over the years and add things in, because we're not only dealing with a greater energy field because we are a global civilization. I can talk to people all over the world at a moment's notice. So with that, you have to add in more energy protection. And honestly, the scariest things that I've had to deal with in this life are humans.
Right.
Are people.
100%.
So And a lot of people are energy drains or energy vampires, and some of them don't even know that they do it. That's the saddest part. They don't understand that they're bleeding other people dry. And so if I'm not able to protect my energy from a flesh and bone human in front of me, what am I going to do when an entity shows up, especially a bigger one, right?
Yeah.
Like a more deity type. So, and I've had some of them show up, and they're big, they're imposing, and obviously a little like, whoa, hi, who are you? Why are you taking up half my house? And if they sense fear, some of them will just leave because it's a hassle. They don't want to have to sit there and deal with you freaking out. But the other part is it's too difficult for them to send in their message because they have to use an energy source in order to be here long enough to deliver the message.
Sure.
So if my energy is protected, they can come in. They already know I'm confident enough, hand the message, and then go about your business. They're not like hanging out all the time. The ones that do come and hang out for a little while, I know that I'm doing work with.
Mm-hmm.
And there's usually multi-layered. It's never just, there's one little project. It's usually personal, larger scale, and then collective scale. And sometimes even bigger than that.
Yeah, it's like you go down to your living room at 2:00 in the morning, you see like a baseball game on. It's like, for fuck's sake, Hermes, I'm trying to sleep here. Like, what are you doing? Give me your message and go. And I could just, when you said that they appear and they like, some people will visualize it as like an actual physical entity, like a shape or a form, right?
Right, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, I view it as like an energy presence that you can kind of feel in your home. Is that more of like what it's like?
It depends. Honestly, it depends. Sometimes they need to take a little bit of a form for me to understand who's there and who's talking. Sometimes it's just energetically, I know that they're here, okay, and then it's kind of projected into my mind. And then there's other times where I am used to seeing stuff. It's constant.
Sure. Okay, because I can. The first thing I think of, I don't know if you're a Disney person, but if you remember like the Hercules movie from like '97, and he goes to the temple and the statue of Zeus starts talking to him, and he freaks the fuck out, and I could just picture that. It's like, no, I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to tell you something.
Yep,
that's interesting. So if you don't, you can feel free to say no, but I'm curious as to like what deities you have encountered, because I'm a huge classicist, so I'm into the Greco-Roman pantheon. My grandparents on my dad's side, they're Hindus. There's only a couple of deities that I'm fond of in that plethora of deities, which is Ram and Hanuman. But there's some others that just like creep me out. I'm like, I don't ever want to see you. But if you don't mind sharing, like some of the deities that you have seen in passing or have encountered. I don't know if they'll get pissed off if you share. I don't want that.
No. I'm only laughing because there's so many that I'm like, which Hades stopped by a couple weeks ago. That
Hades?
was, yeah.
Now, what do they look like? Do they look like the actual representation
No.
that the ancient Greeks, or do they look more something otherworldly?
It's kind of hard to say. I want to say Anubis is the only one that's kind of consistent, that has shown up consistently and always look the same. And that's probably because, he's my first crush. Everyone else had like pictures of singers and movie stars. And I was like, no, I'm in love with an ancient Egyptian
god.
So, totally normal childhood here. That being said, so like for instance, when Hades came, I'm at my kitchen counter, I'm chopping up vegetables, and all of a sudden I look up and he's taking up half my living room. He's huge. And basically what I saw was an outline of his figure. And I knew it was him from the feeling alone. And of course, I'm a person, right? So first thing I think of is, oh no, is someone going to pass away? Is this a big old thing? And
Yeah.
kind of freaked out a little bit. And then he just left. Like, he kind of shook his head, honestly, and just left. And I was like, okay, well, I'm spiraling. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
And so a day or two later, I ended up having a conversation, and it brought up a lot of stuff from my past, a lot of traumas, a lot of stuff in this one particular realm. And it started bringing up things that, quite honestly, I had forgotten about, a lot of them.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh, that's why he stopped by. He's helping me with that, because I'm having to unpack that specifically. He didn't show up again. I kind of like felt him around, but he wasn't like there like 2 days before. And then the next day I'm in the car and I'm driving to an appointment, completely oblivious to the world, just in my own mind. And there's no triggers on the road. It was only me on the road. And all of a sudden I get this memory of this thing that had happened in the past that was horrendous. And I had completely forgotten about it. It was a long, long time ago. And it flashes before my eyes. And all of a sudden he's in my front seat. And I look over and he said, hey, you lived through that and you forgot about it. And I said, you're right. Thank you. And so then I understood, okay, he's there to help me with that, specifically for what I needed working on. And then I started, now that I'm a couple weeks out from it, I start realizing some of the other things that we were working on and helping with that were bigger than myself. So that's why I'm saying they never come just for one little tiny little small thing. They're not wasting their time to come and just say hi. My cousin, as a joke, we were at an event, and as a joke, the wind blew like at the perfect time. And he said, oh, thank you, Hermes, so much. And I didn't even fully catch what he said. And I look up and there's Hermes in the tree, this gold thing that he wears on his head. And he's just staring at me and he's laughing. And then the wind starts blowing so hard that we all had to go inside. And I thought, okay, so no more, invoking the names and bringing them forward, because they've got jokes sometimes.
Like I said, I'm a classics type of person. The amount of times I've invoked the name of specific deities, specifically Apollo. Like if I go outside and it's like really sunny outside and I know I'm going to go for a run, I'll just be a smartass and I'll like take in the sun. I'm like, Apollo has blessed us this day with some good sun. And then I'll go for my run or whatever.
And that's not bad. That's not invoking. That's not true invoking. That's wit and banter. And there is a difference between the two. And they do understand the difference of when you're saying something out of jest, or you're giving an example, or you're saying something off the cuff, versus like, yeah, go ahead and show up. It's just at that particular moment. I also didn't know that we were going to have a gale later that day, which is a giant windstorm, if people don't know that term. I'm in a very temperate zone, so we don't get like a lot of weather. So high winds, we all freak out. If it rains, everyone forgets how to drive. We don't do snow. We don't do any of the extremes here.
I get all of the above.
Yeah, I don't understand how y'all live. So I will stay here in my little bubble of temperate happiness. But I thought it was interesting timing. So just because you say one of their names doesn't mean that they're going to show up. I mean, they don't have time for that. Yeah. Or they want to.
Just me being who I am and what my interests are, I'll just in jest like say their names before I do something and particularly associated with them. Like if it's like storming, I'll just be a smartass. I'm like, oh, Zeus is pissed off today. Like, stuff like that. So, but I just find that really interesting how like, was it your cousin or your friend just mentions Hermes? Your cousin mentions Hermes and Hermes is like right there. And I know for some listeners, some of my listeners are, like Christian of that faith. So some of them might not be too receptive of this, but I do want to point out that, that is the point of this podcast, to have this type of conversation. And if you listen to all 170 of my episodes so far, listeners, you would know I love Greek mythology. I would scroll on TikTok, I do the doom scroll, and somehow I end up on Witch Talk, and everybody's freaking cursing someone with Hecate. I'm like, that lady must be exhausted with all the curses that people are asking for.
No, she's probably bored, to be
Yeah,
honest. Okay, so let's unpack a couple things. First of all, in true witchcraft, and you got to remember, I'm older. I've been doing this a long time. I do not come from a family of witches, even though I'm descended from one who was hung at the witch trial. That being said, my family would not call themselves witches. I came in knowing witchcraft. I just understood it. I came in with all that kind of preset past life stuff. Witches who are actual witches, who have, we've done the work, we know what we're doing, it's a calling, you feel it, you work towards it. We're not hexing people for every little tiny little thing, okay? First and foremost, you do the mature thing and you try to find a mature physical way to deal with the problem, whether talking it out or ignoring the person, or use the block on the phone if you don't like them calling, or quit your job if you hate it, right? People are not willy-nilly out there hexing people because you cut them off in traffic. And if they are, there is a law, a universal law with energy. So, things do come back to you. So if you're doing things like that willy-nilly, whether you believe in that law or not, the law believes in you. So energetically, whether you want to call it karma or universal law, pick a name. I don't care. There's too many names for things now. We keep reinventing names for things. I am also a non-denominational minister. I went through seminary. So when people are constantly invoking the name Jesus or Jesus Christ or God or some of the other names that I'm not going to mention from the Old Testament, you're invoking an entity as well. So if Christianity is your jam, and there's nothing wrong with that. I was raised in a metaphysical Christian household. That throws a lot of people off. Like, how are you? I love Jesus. I love what he taught. Amazing teacher. He also is a metaphysical teacher and a spiritual mentor. I go into the Gnostic Gospels. I also believe that the God of the Old Testament is something very different. And in the scripture, Jesus actually talks about that guy isn't who I'm calling Father. So, there's a lot of different there, and that's a lot to unpack. That's like a 5-hour show of me ranting. That being said, all of history of the different myths and all of the old religions and some of the newer ones, they all dovetail and tie into each other.
Sure.
If you look at Kali Ma from, Hinduism, it's basically
Terrifies
this.
me.
Okay, but she shouldn't.
Yeah.
In all honesty, right? If you understand the depth of what she is and what she's standing for, she also is very similar to Lilith, right? She is there to destroy the ego. She is there to call you on your stuff. She's there to help you with the shadow work. She's there to strip you bare so that you can actually do the work and ascend your consciousness. Yes, she looks terrifying. So do a lot of the pictures of Lilith. Yeah. But if you understand that with the feminine specifically, you have two sides of the arc. And a lot of people keep forgetting that true femininity isn't about sitting here and being like, oh, I'm so pretty. And, oh, I'm so demure. And I'm just going to let a man lead me everywhere. No. Look at women in nature. You get a female dog, that dog will bite your face off if you come to attack her kids.
Yeah.
The male dog isn't doing that. He's running interference. And everyone thinks, oh, men are so much scarier because in humankind, we've changed a lot of things. So, and then we can go on the divine masculine. That's a whole other thing to unpack as well. But there are, the pendulum's always swinging and there's different parts to each. And that has to be honored and understood fully. And if you just look at the picture of Kali Ma and you're like, gosh, that's awful and terrifying.
I saw it when I was 4, so that's kind of why it
I completely get that. That could freak you out.
Thanks, Grandma.
Right? But that being said, once you understand her backstory and what she's doing and what she stands for and what the skull necklace is and, you know,
Yeah.
the arms around her waist, you start understanding, oh, this is the only way that they could communicate back then was to draw this crazy picture.
Yeah.
And that was to convey all of these layered messages. Just like if you take a picture from the Renaissance of Jesus or of the Last Supper, there's a ton of hidden messages in there. And I have to say, like, Dan Brown and the Da Vinci Code was awesome because it started awakening people to the fact that, oh, wait, there's a lot more to some of this than just it's a pretty picture. The Sistine Chapel, whoo!
Beautiful work, by the way. I would love to see it in person one day.
Exceptional. The messages within messages within messages. And that's how all of these religions and deities and entities are. They are figureheads. And a lot of the times when you start narrowing them down, a lot of them span across all the different cultures. It's the same type of thing that it's representing.
I want to track back a little bit. You said your favorite god and your crush growing up was Anubis, who happens to be my favorite Egyptian deity. And I know this is completely fictional, but in The Mummy Returns, they have the army of Anubis. And I've always loved that. I know he does not have an army of Anubis like that. That's hell-bent on causing destruction and all that stuff. But I've always said if I had that capability, anyway, but my question is, there's a certain place I would go on the Eastern Seaboard. I'll leave it there.
Okay.
But with like Anubis being like a god of the underworld and god of the dead and helping, you know, shepherd like the mumma. He's like overseeing the mummification process to make sure the soul passes to the underworld, to get to the part where, you know, you weigh your heart against a feather, and if it's heavier, you're shit out of luck. You get devoured by the little alligator guy. But knowing that you've
understood.
yeah, but knowing that you've seen Anubis, you've encountered, actually had interactions with Hades. For me, I'm viewing it from the perspective of like the Egyptian pantheon and the Greek pantheon and all these different deities throughout history that represent the same thing. Is it all at the end of the day, is it all the same energy but manifesting in different forms based off of what you know and what you're comfortable with? Or is there actually Anubis and is there actually Hades and they have this job, but they each have different aspects of the job? That's a loaded question. I'm sorry. I'm nerding out. I'm nerding out.
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
Take your time.
let me take you on a little trip.
I'm a grad student, so I can handle it. A former grad student.
Your poor listeners. So there once was a global population before the one that we remember. And there were entities at that time that were figureheads that helped with certain things. And there were more than one, right? But there was kind of one that, like, the ruler of that specific thing, death, for instance, right? There's one figurehead, and then he had helpers who helped, or she, depending on which one.
Yeah.
And then some things happened to the planet, and then humans sprang up. And then when humans diversified and just started splaying out all over the place, they still have the memory of these figureheads and these beings, but then they started calling them gods or sky people. And then they gave them designations. And then, because written language didn't happen immediately, they started giving them names because it was easier than saying the one who da 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 da, right? They give him a name, Anubis, right, in Egypt. And then depending on where you're at in other cultures, he's going to be named something else. So yes, when they come to me, especially the ones like I've had some come that like I've had to Google hard because I had no clue who they were. And they're very kind, so they will show up in a way that I can actually figure out who they are and what message they're trying to convey. The first time Tyr showed up for me, I had absolutely no clue. I knew about Odin, probably Thor.
God of War Tyr, like the
Yeah.
god of war. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had no clue who he was. I mean, this is a long time ago. And so he shows up, and all I see are these eyes. They were the bluest. I don't even think a blue like that exists in our color scheme. And I'm like, okay. And then he shows me, and I was like, well, who are you? I don't mean to be rude. I appreciate you being here, but I don't know who you are. And so then he showed me kind of a Viking hat. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like Norse pantheon. Yes. Confirmation. Okay. And I'm like, are you Odin? He's like, no. Okay. Well, I know like two at this point, right? And so I said, can you give me anything that I can Google so that I could figure out who you are and like, why are you here? And so he shows me this whole series of events, and I literally just opened my eyes, went straight to Google, plugged them all in, and ended up at the time. I mean, like I said, this is a long time ago, so the internet was newer, but I had to dig and dig and dig to find his name. And there's only one thing, in the Eddas actually about him still written. And so I had to put so much information in order to figure out who he was. And then when I said his name, he confirmed. Okay. But that's kind of the process of elimination. So some of them are easy, but I had one come, it was from ancient Cambodian deity of time. And, the being shows up, and I'm basically like, I'm lost. No clue. Yeah. Like, hey. And so basically like it has to show me this picture, and it's like in a wheel. And so I'm looking, and there's very vivid colors. And so I have to throw all that in, thank God for the internet. God, the old way of doing this, of checking out books in the library.
Right.
So thank you, technology. Brought us this far. And ended up finding out it's this very like obscure ancient deity from Cambodia that's known as like a time lord. I think it was the best English translation they could come up with.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had some that make sense, and I've had some that are super obscure. To answer your question, I feel that most of the time they're coming in a way so that we can understand, so that we can start doing the backpedaling and the math to figure out, oh, this is actually talking about this subject. Because, the story of Anubis, it's actually beautiful. I mean, he's basically like death. He comes when you pass. He's walking you through the underworld. He's helping you process the fact that you're not alive anymore. And the weighing your heart against the feather, honestly, talks about reincarnation. Do you need to be eaten and go back through the cycle, meaning go have another life to fix whatever you didn't work out here? Or should you move on and move up in your next reincarnation? So if you look at it from that aspect, it's actually really beautiful. I mean, death itself, everyone thinks it's so scary, like this guy with a cloak and a scythe. And it's like, actually, how kind that there's a being there to collect you. And I know you were talking about some movies and shows. I watched, I'm not done with it, so no spoilers, but the show The Sandman.
Never watched it.
Okay, really, really good. I know it's on Netflix. The author of the book, obviously, not everything is, he's not a purist. He definitely takes his own turns on things, which I actually kind of like. His show, American Gods, was awesome, by the way, as well. That show, The Sandman, shows death, and it shows the beauty of that job and how much of an honor it is to take people and walk them through that process very kindly. So it's not, I mean, yeah, we're so taught to fear death, but it's really nothing to fear. I mean, it happens.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's I think with the concept, well, not the concept, the reality of death, I think it's just the anxiety of not knowing what's going to happen. And I think that's like the biggest thing. I think the older that I get, because I'm 35 now, wouldn't say that I'm that old. But you start, I mean, at a certain point, like, people you grew up with start passing away. Like over the past 2 years, I've had two uncles back to back pass away that were, pretty formative for me. Like they were always around from when I was a baby up until I left the house, So you just kind of get exposed to it. And the more you get exposed to it, it's like, okay, it's going to happen. It is what it is. Hopefully there's something good on the other side waiting for me. That's just how you take it. And my fear, I'm like a weird Catholic. Because I think reincarnation is real. I think that people are attracted to certain things innately based off of their past life. And that feeling that you have that people say they look at a place and it feels like a home away from home. I get that with certain places around the world, with multiple places around the world. Like, I feel like I should belong there. Like, I feel like I should live there, or at least I lived there at one point or another. So that's kind of like where my religious upbringing kind of conflicts with what I personally think about when it comes to the concept of reincarnation. Well, I can't even say if it's a concept because I actually think it's a real thing. Because there's so many instances where children remember their past lives. Like that one kid that was a former World War II pilot. And he pinpoint, like they didn't know, they just gave him stuff blindly. He's like, oh, this dude, I know this guy, that was me, this was my plane, this is that. And they corroborate all this information. So I think at a certain point, if you constantly deny that stuff, I think it's one, because you're afraid of it. And two, it's, what they say, it's the term I'm looking for, cognitive dissonance. Like that's how people get around things that they're uncomfortable with.
Yeah. For me, if this is it, this life, and that's it, and then I have to go sit on a fluffy cloud with a whole bunch of people and hang out for eternity, that's, first of all, boring. Secondly, not useful. So you're telling me that whether you call it God, source, creator, whatever, that created the planet that we're on and all these people and beings down to the amoeba, that everything serves a function. Everything serves a function in our world. Even things that don't make sense. Even mosquitoes. I know people like to rag on mosquitoes a lot. But if you disrupt the mosquito colony, you disrupt an entire ecosystem because they're food for a lot of things. And they also spread certain diseases, and that's also population control. So that being said, everything has a purpose and a reason. I mean, we just found creatures now that exist in the ocean that literally eat plastic. So everything has a function. You're telling me that on a planet that recycles itself, cleans itself, and everything has a function, that there's one try and that's it? And then we just go sit for eternity? First of all, that's a lot of souls.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. Also, like, where's the growth? What about the baby who's born and lives for 2 minutes and passes away?
Right.
It has no growth. There's no growth there. That makes no sense to me. And this isn't even a matter of my belief system from what I know, from what, my experience is. This is just me being logical and asking the question and saying, that doesn't make sense. That has never made sense to me. Even purgatory doesn't fully make sense to me. And I'm not going to brag on the Catholics. Listen, I love everyone. I really, really do. It doesn't matter what religion, it doesn't matter what belief system you come from. I have friends from every different denomination. I have, I know people who practice stuff that is, I don't practice it, but, live and let live, right? I can ask them questions, and we have certain boundaries and lines drawn in the sand. But, I know people who are Satanists. I know people who are Jesuit priests. I know, rabbis. I know a little bit of everybody at this point. That being said, that is part of the reason why I'm able to see through the puzzle pieces and see we're all talking about the same thing. We just use different words for it. Because reincarnation is the only thing that makes sense. Myself, I mean, as a little kid, yes, I could, I would sleepwalk and talk in ancient dead languages that I was never exposed to. But how was I able to read and speak French? That made no sense. I had never been around a French speaker in my life. I'd never been around anybody who spoke French. And I'm just able to look at it and read it. And also in New Orleans, be able to tell people where certain streets were in the 1800s and remember that entire life that I lived there. And like give to the point where I freaked a historian out. Like, how did you even know this? Like, I've never been there in my entire life. My friend went there, and I had them go on a wild goose chase, and that was really, really fun. I kind of love weirding people out with random little side quests for them to do. Other places as well. It doesn't make sense that this little kid came in knowing how to do certain things. And that's because I had knowledge from before. I know I spoke earlier about I don't do snow. I don't. I hate snow. And like, I'm very adamant about it. I don't like the way it looks. I don't like the way it sounds. I don't like anything about it. I've been in it once and near it one other time. And that was it. But I also realized that stems from a past life, and it was not a very pleasant one, and it didn't end well for me, we'll put it that way. and not even in like any big way, and that's the other thing. A lot of people like, oh, in a past life I was a princess. Cool, we were all princesses and princes then, really? I mean, I know there have been a lot throughout history, but like, what about the guy who cleaned the latrines? Someone had to be him in a past life, and maybe he, owns Meta now. We don't know, right? Like, that's his comeuppance. He went from one to another, and that's fine. That's part of the growth arc. But I have lived past lives that I can remember that were somewhat mundane. I wasn't known. That one with the snow in particular was awful, and I understand.
Were you a Viking?
No. I was a woman, and I was in a very horrible relationship, and he ended up killing me. And he beat me like daily for years, and it was horrible. I remember some of it, and we brought up the whole Hades thing, and that was part of the trauma from this life that I couldn't quite understand. Like, this doesn't always make sense, but it was partial bleed over from that life as well. Of understanding, okay, I really need to work a lot of this stuff out and heal.
Right. I don't mean to prod, but again, I do, because I'm a historian and I'm curious. With some of your
job.
with some of your past lives, do you remember like what specific time periods they were? Were they like fairly recent?
No.
Yeah. Like, how far back are you thinking? If you had to pick one and you had to like, okay, date it. Just take a ballpark, like, of what time period.
In human form?
Yes, in human form.
Okay. There was one, I want to say it was Greece.
Okay.
And it was probably early heyday of Greece, of ancient Greece.
See, the interesting with history, it's like, again, with ancient Rome, it's all based off of like what we have left over. Like 99% of what was written is gone.
Right. And then you also have to think about the fact that a lot of things were built on and built over.
Correct.
And
yes,
you Harold from New York, you understand there's like 3 levels below the New York that is now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was also built on and over. There were settlements even before that
Yeah.
just decayed to the point. So, and a lot of the ancient temples were built up and over things that were pre-existing.
I'm of the notion that, and I know some people call it like pseudo history and stuff like that, but I think logically speaking, I don't think civilization just cropped up with the Babylonians and like the ancient Sumerians and all that stuff. It didn't just happen in the Indus Valley. To me, there were thousands upon thousands of empires that have risen and fell that we
Yes.
don't know about throughout history.
People before people and time before time. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's very true to human nature, at least the modern human, the hubris of humanity to think that we know everything that has happened in the past, especially when we look at archaeology and stuff like that. I mean, like the fucking Sphinx is older than the Great Pyramids of Giza, and apparently they said they found another one, unless like
Mhm.
I'm misremembering. It's like, okay, how do you explain that? And I mean, even in ancient Egypt, you could have been an ancient Egyptologist. Like that's how old that civilization is. And I'm not saying that you had people or deities or creatures that walked around looking like Horus, but I mean, at a certain point, like you don't know. Like you honestly
Not
don't know.
everything looked the way that we do now.
Right.
And, evolution. How come the Aboriginal people have a verbal and written memory of over 100,000 years?
Right.
And they've been able to verify it because they were able to give star maps that were over 100,000 years old.
Mhm.
And then you look at the ancient Aztecs and Mayans and some of the civilizations in South America. That doesn't make sense. Why would these people who were supposedly hunter-gatherers go out to the middle of an arid desert and draw giant lines in the ground
Yeah.
when they had no access to water or food? That makes absolutely no sense if supposedly everyone was just, picking berries and squatting by the riverbed. No.
Well, Dean and I, like back in the day, like a couple of years ago, we did like a whole 2-hour episode talking about the concept of the Anunnaki. I will admit it was partially alcohol fueled, so we
Right.
went down some rabbit holes. But I just find the concept of it fascinating because I've been to the Metropolitan Museum in New York, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, listeners, and I went to that section and I just looked at the depictions of the Anunnaki. And I'm like, okay, who
Mhm.
came up with, okay, if this is a story, who came up with the story? Like the equivalent of Tolkien of that time period, like wrote that story? Like, where does this all come from? I think every story that's passed down through humanity's like history, through like the myths and stuff like that, even with the Iliad and the Odyssey, like the Heinrich Schliemann, who I think was a complete dickhead, he followed Homer's directions
Mhm.
to Ilium, to Troy, and found the actual historical site.
Mhm.
So it there's something like there's certain things that okay, they could be a little far-fetched, but there's certain things within our mythology that are grounded in fact.
But doesn't it make sense? It makes sense that something else came down. I mean, and you look at the Anunnaki with
Mhm.
their origin story, and then you look at the origin story in the Old Testament. You look at the origin story in the Talmud. You look at the origin story in multiple other cultures. It's all the same thing. These people came down from the sky. They knew a whole lot.
Mhm.
They made people here by, gene altering, basically, with what they had. They put a little of themselves in there. Some people were like, cool, we're going to use them as slaves. We're going to get what we need to get. And then we're out of 500. And then some people were like, hey, but like, we can't just leave them here. We like them. And they're like, fine, then you get to stay with them. And then some of them took off and a lot of them stayed. And then eventually, they became, it makes sense. Humans do not make sense for this planet. When we're born, we're basically giant slugs for the first year of our lives. We can't feed ourselves. We can't walk.
Right.
We're not able to do anything on our own. We're basically, it's mom or somebody feed me or I die.
Uh-huh.
If you look at nature, nothing else is born like that. Everything else in nature, you want to really freak yourself out. Watch a baby deer be born or a moose. First of all, moose are huge.
Yes, they are. They're massive. They're not friendly either.
Okay, well, didn't even know that much. I just didn't know like how giant they really were. But a baby fawn being born or a baby moose, they are so weird and gangly. And they come out and they're able to stand up. They're able to eat. I watch the birds when they're born. I, feed everything in my neighborhood. And the baby opossums, they hang on to mom and mom helps them out. But they're still able to walk and do things on their own. Human babies aren't. We don't make sense. And then you go into other things like our circadian rhythm being synced up to Mars. And there's a lot of other weird, things that happen. And then the moon's weird. There's a lot of weirdness. All I'm saying is expand your mind and ask those questions. And whether you want to ask them in a religious context or a spiritual context, or even in just a physical context of this narrative doesn't make sense, that we've been spoon-fed our whole life. That, the moon just was space dust and everything aligned perfectly for life to grow here, but nowhere else. We're it. Does that make sense? That doesn't really make sense.
Right.
Not to me, anyway.
No, I'm a big proponent of the universe is too vast for us just to be the only intelligent life out there. Whether we're the only intelligent life right now and previously, because you look up at the stars and you're seeing the light from how many light years away, it takes that much amount of time to that light to get to you. So even if there was an extraterrestrial intelligent race in another part of our galaxy, even that's like 65 million light years away, what they're seeing by the time they're looking through their telescopes, they're seeing the dinosaurs get wrecked by the asteroid. They're not seeing us as now. And then like 65 million years later, then they'll see us as we are now. And who knows, by that point, we might not exist anymore. So,
but then we're not even tapping into what's coexisting here with us while we're here. So if we think we're it, this is it, then how are there people who see different color spectrums? How are there people like me who are able to interface with other beings that aren't coming from Mars or Jupiter just to come say hi to me and help me with like a little, therapeutic work? They're already here. They're coexisting.
Right.
And they live, if you look at, different books, it talks about the jinn live 90 degrees from humans. We inhabit the same place, but they live 90 degrees. Well, what's a good way to say that? It's another dimension.
Yeah.
They co-inhabit. The Fae, same thing could be said about them. Oh, there's pockets. Well, they live with us, but not with us. Yeah, it's just it's a way of saying they live in another dimension with us, on top of us. And then sometimes they peek through and sometimes they don't.
Right. No, I think that makes sense. And I think the only thing that I would caution is that when we delve into these discussions and type of stuff, well, personally for me, I think it's important to not undermine the intelligence and capability of humanity from like a technological standpoint and an architectural standpoint of things that we're able to do even in the past with limited technology.
So unfortunately, there have been a lot of archaeologists over time who needed money, needed funding, and they made stuff up. right? I am not saying that humans are not capable. Look, we have skyscrapers, we have AI, we have all these amazing
Right.
things. Look at
Yeah.
how you're able to live in your own life right now. Like, we don't have to use a mortar and pestle anymore. We have like a blender or the ninja thingy, whatever you want to
Right.
call it.
Yeah.
So, like, we've made leaps and bounds, but even today, with all of our technology and all of our building capability, we're still not able to put stone together that a human hair cannot pass through, like the pyramids in ancient Aztec and in ancient Egypt. So, what technology was lost? For me, one of the worst things in our recorded history was the burning of the Library of Alexandria.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
a tragedy. We lost so much information. We lost history. We lost spiritual information. We lost technology. We lost medicine. It took us back to the Dark Ages because of how much was lost. And this is why I caution people when, you know, in the work that I do, I've had a couple of people say, like, hey, you bring up like making sure that you're really strong mentally and spiritually so that you don't fall for cults. Like, are you worried about everyone slipping into a cult? I'm like, yeah, because a cult of personality, a cult of mentality of limiting yourself is what caused the burning of the Library of Alexandria. It was a whole bunch of zealots who were radical ideologues from a certain religion who believed all this stuff was heresy and it needed to go and put us back into the Dark Ages. Well, I'm sorry, I don't know about you, but that doesn't work for me. And also, you know, lived through one of the Inquisitions. I'm not wanting to go through that again.
Once you get to a certain point with the zealots and, you know, the death of certain philosophers like Hypatia and others, my cousin and I, who's also a historian, him and I talk about this stuff like for hours, of how the rise of certain religions really polarized the world. Whereas in antiquity, yeah, you had multiple pantheons, you had multiple gods, but like when armies would go to a different location, for example, like when the Romans, like they went into Gaul and they conquered Gaul, it was, wait, what god do you have here? It's kind of like mine. I'm going to add it to my shrine too.
Yep.
And it was just like this whole exchange. I truly think that the ancient world was more connected than people like to realize.
It was a global civilization. How do you explain Easter Island? How do you explain words in ancient dialects from South America matching ancient dialects in Asia? The same word meaning the same thing for sun or moon. That means we were once a global civilization. All of that has been lost and forgotten, though. And it's almost deliberately. And again, religion tends to be used as a power control mechanism. It dumbs everybody down, makes everyone fall in line and follow the leader and don't ask questions. For me, if you know, myself and others were all kicked out of Sunday school because we asked too many questions. Luckily, my dad was the minister, so I didn't get kicked out. You know, he loved it when I asked questions. But I mean, my cousin got kicked out of, he went to Jewish camp and he got kicked out of there because he was asking questions. Then he went to a Sunday school, got kicked out of there for asking questions. I can't tell you the amount of people that I know who were kicked out of different religious institutions for asking simple questions. And they were kids. So if a kid isn't able to question anything, what do you think an adult is? So that's indoctrination. That's not true relationship with spirit and the divine. That's different.
As a kid, I don't know how the hell this is like physically possible. My mom was Catholic. My mom was like super Catholic. My mom's Dominican, so they're like Catholic. And then like you had my dad who was a Hindu, but he eventually converted to Catholicism. My aunt and uncle were Muslims. My cousins, like my extended family, like cousins were Jewish, and it's like I got exposed to like the whole thing. And that's kind of how I shaped my worldview. It wasn't just one. It's like, okay, if this says this, then this says that. How does that make sense? Like, there's got to be more to this. And, I like to question things. At one point, like in my teen years, I was an atheist, and I didn't admit to it, but my mom would always say in Spanish, she would call me an atheist. I'm like, yes, mom, I guess I am. And it was because like I was questioning things. Particularly like as the more I got into history, I questioned like, okay, how does an all-powerful being allow like the Holocaust to happen, like the Rwanda genocide to happen? How are all these things allowed to happen if there's someone there that's supposed to be all knowing, all loving, every control of everything, can influence everything? Like, why does that happen? And that's kind of like where I struggled with like my belief. And then I had my whole haunted house experience, and my mom, through her belief and like what she did, kind of like drew me back in. And that's why. But again, I call myself a bad Catholic because I'm here saying like, I follow Jesus because like to me, his tenet is don't be a dick. It's like pretty straightforward. Don't be a dick to people. And at the same time, I believe in the concept of reincarnation, which is to its core, like part of Hinduism and part of Buddhism.
And also Jesus talked about it too. Let's not forget that.
Right. So like, I apologize for ranting, but
rant away. I mean, you and I have similar backgrounds, right? Like I'm a mutt. I've been exposed to a little bit of everything. I was very blessed. I wasn't raised in one specific religion. It was metaphysical Christian. They used the Bible, but obviously like we did a lot of history and study and other things too. And I was able to ask questions. And I understand that I'm very, very blessed because I got raised in that circumstance. But that also made me who I am today so that I can help other people ask those questions and not be scared to do it, whether I'm a safe place because, okay, I'm a little bit of everything, right? And I'm also not one to judge. What hurts me the most is when I hear people with the question that you brought up, like, hey, there's all these horrible, awful things that happen in the world. You're trying to tell me there's one loving God who's just a bit jealous, throws temper tantrums, and is like super cool with a whole bunch of his own creations dying. What's that all about? And it's because no one was able to give you a proper answer because, in my belief, a lot of them were worshiping specific deities. And they're not always great, And yeah, certain deities will do things for deals. They get appreciation or they get adulation and they get all the followers. And that's great. But they also want sacrifice. And the Old Testament is rife with it. I mean, if anyone wants to say witchcraft is evil, well, then have you read the Old Testament? Because that's like awful. That's the kind of witchcraft that I don't practice.
And you answered my question of like, I actually wanted to ask you about the concept of sacrifice because in antiquity, and that's like my main focus, sacrifice. We're going to sacrifice 100 bulls to Poseidon and all that stuff. Okay. Did that actually do anything or?
It's making a deal. So here's the thing. And I'm probably confusing everyone by now. If you don't know me and you're listening to this and you're like, this lady is a lot. I am a lot, and I own that. That being said, I do not do deals, and I do not deity worship.
Sure.
At all. Now, I appreciate them and I respect them. The same way, if any of you were to come to my house, I would be very kind and respectful. Hi, how are you doing? Why are you here? And there's people I'm going to let in, and maybe we'll sit down, we'll have a cup of tea, and, maybe I've made a baked good for you because I was expecting you. And we're going to talk. And then you're going to leave because you don't live here. That's about it, right? And then there's others that you're not even getting on the property. I don't want to know you. I don't want to talk to you. Like, just be gone. That's the same way that I look at entities and deities. Yes, you can make deals with them. Yes, you can sacrifice things to them and you can get stuff. And this is why there was a lot of carnage back in the day, especially, and still currently today, because people are still making deals with things that they don't understand that they're doing. And this is continually happening. And this is why I tell people be very, very conscientious of what you're saying and what you're doing. If you are going to enter into this world, whether it's I'm slightly out of religion and want to step my toe in, you do not bring the rules of religion over to spirituality, but you need to understand that there are deals and they can be made. And sometimes you could be making deals and not even realizing it. Like you were saying, oh, you're giving thanks to Apollo when it's a beautiful sunny day. Okay, well, I'm sure he's digging that. And eventually, are you going to ask something from him? And if you ask something from him, are you prepared to pay that price?
Right.
What is he asking back?
Nah, dude, I'm good. I'm just telling you the sun looks nice. Go about your day. Go do what you need to do. Go chase somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't need this right now. You know, I didn't know much about deity worship and like making deals and stuff like that prior to speaking to you. But now that you mention all of that stuff, I'm going to be more cognizant of what I say. To me, this is how the ancient Greeks explained storms and all of these different things. Like, oh, why we lost the battle is because we pissed off Ares. That's why we lost. Not because our commander was an idiot. We lost the battle because we pissed off Ares. Like, we didn't offer something like we were supposed to do. Something of that sort.
Or the other team had a stronger player at the helm.
Yeah, that too.
You know, their deity might have been stronger because, you know, you have those deities squaring off and fighting each other. I think it's really important just to think about what it is that you're saying. And this should just be like general life advice in general, just in daily life. Think about what it is that you're saying. If you're constantly saying negative things, that lands in your body and in your psyche and starts to tell your mind and your body that you're okay and you want that negativity. So I used to hear people say this one phrase that I will not repeat, but you know, like the FML type of thing, but a little bit worse. And it was a very popular thing. Like every little trivial thing, people would say it like, oh, woe is me. I started noticing they started sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into depression. And finally, you know, a couple of them, I called it out. I'm like, do you even hear what you're saying? You're saying something that you think is cool and it's trendy to say, but are you actually listening to what you're reinforcing in your mind and in your body? Your body's cells of 70% water. It's hearing that. And it's thinking that's what you want. So it's starting to create it. Now, if you want to be happy, you have to start stripping those things away. So, you know, years upon years ago, I had heard of this thing. It's called the depression diet. And I was like, this is kind of cool. Because I was in this very like emo phase for a little bit. Not like emo life, but like just I was very kind of like obsessive with emotions and really sad songs, like really feeling into it, like very teenagey stuff that I was like, oh, maybe I need to break out of this. And so I found this thing. It's called the depression diet. So the first thing you do is you watch no news for 28 days. So no news at all. And back then it was a little easier because news was only on the TV. We didn't have cell phones with internet yet. The next thing was you listen to no sad or angry music for 28 days straight. So the only things you could listen to were happy or like classical happy songs. So not even sad, like Moonlight Sonata, my jam, love it. But yeah, like classical emo, no, it's only happy stuff. And then you had to eat one food a day that made you joyful. So it could be cookie, brownie, whatever, you know, brings you joy. And then you had to eat one meal a day that was super healthy and nutritious for your body. And I thought, why not, right? It's 28 days. Let's just see. I think I stuck with that for like 3 months. And the first time I listened to a sad song after doing that, I realized, whoa, I had been playing this song on repeat because it was an awesome song. But like, oh my God, the way that it hit my body and my mind. And I was like, I was doing that to myself constantly. And it's so easy to fall in the trap, right? Because we're able to stream music from our phone and we can doom scroll and all the things that are catchy and listen and watch it. But if you really pay attention to what you're putting in your mind and your body, that's what you're feeding. So are you feeding growth and intelligence and spiritual development, or joy and happiness and all the things you want to develop? Or are you feeding the anger, the depression, the emotional wasteland, the apathy? And there's a ton of apathy out there right now. Which one are you feeding and why? Why are you feeding it if you want something different?
No, that makes complete sense. And to go off on piggyback off of that a little bit, I didn't believe affirmations worked. I thought they were bullshit until I actually tried it. And like I mean, nobody wants to work like a corporate job every day. You know, that shit sucks. My goal is very much to make my podcast my career, you know, to continue to talk to people like yourself and people that have had paranormal experiences, and, you know, make this like a safe space for us to have these awesome conversations. But, you know, like, life is life. We all have like stuff we do outside of here that we're obligated to do. And, you know, sometimes I would wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I fucking hate this. But then I just started saying, like, you know, my sister told me to do this. She's like, because my sister like deals with more depression and stuff than I do. My sister said to say just 3 times, as soon as you get up, everything's going to work out for me. Everything's going to work out for me. And everything's going to work out for me. And everything that I dreaded that came up throughout the day, wasn't a big deal. It was like, okay, cool. Like, I had the answers I needed in my mind to get myself through the day. So I think there's validity to that.
There is. I mean, if you look at the study that was done with water years ago, where he put, you know, spoke nicely to some of the water and spoke nasty things to other parts and then froze it, and you see the snowflake differentiates. Mm-hmm. And one of them are very beautiful in their fractal patterns and they're gorgeous, and the other one is just wrong. So that shows you, if that's with a drop of water, think about what's going on in your body that's 70% water.
Right.
And we're affected by the moon. We're affected by the sun. The solar flares happen. Those are affecting our physical bodies and our minds. We're electrical beings as well as we are human, but we have a whole electrical system going on inside us. So it is important to know those external factors. It's also important to make sure, like, if you're sleeping and you have 900 devices near you with Wi-Fi and electric things, you know, running through, maybe that's why you're waking up and you don't feel so great, right? Like, put a plate of salt under your bed, because salt helps remove the negative bubbles from our being so that you get a great night's sleep. And then the other thing is, you know, if you don't have copper, put some old pennies around the end of your bed, so that your bed is protected and you have a way for the EMF to go. A lot of people don't even realize that they're being affected by that. And that might sound like woo-woo, and it's not, but it's actual science. I mean, these are Stanford and Harvard grads that have studied this stuff and seen what it does to the body. It's just they can't speak too loud because we have technology companies who make a lot of money by selling us stuff and making sure that we're, you know, living on our phones and all of our devices. But taking a break is really, really important. For me, I fully admit it. I'm a workaholic. You know, not only am I a Virgo, I have 6 planets in my 6th house of Virgo. And I came here to work. And if you're not into astrology, that basically means like your girl came here to work. Okay. So I will drown myself in work, and to the point where I have to schedule time for myself to relax. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm still work in progress. As old as I am, I still fully don't understand how to relax. I'm still teaching myself how to relax, because now relaxed for me, I just think I'm tired. And I realize, oh, wait, but I don't want to go to sleep. Oh, this is what like relaxed is. because I'm used to doing so many different things. And at first, when I would schedule time for myself to just rest and do nothing, the time would come and I would freak out because I was so used to being busy that I didn't understand what it was to not be busy. I never had that balance. So I have to like slowly reteach my mind and my body. And the reason I'm telling you all this is because I'm not perfect. I don't have it all figured out. No one does. We all have our little things. I might know a heck of a lot about one thing, right? But there's other things that I don't. And then I've had spirits even show up and they're like, hey, you just need to relax and slow down or you're going to get sick. And I'm like, no, I'm going to keep going. And then what happens? I end up getting sick. So I wanted to break that cycle. And so I started actually paying attention and saying, okay, I need to schedule rest. I need to schedule time for my brain to be engaged in things that actually motivate me. Yes, we all have to work our jobs. Like we have bills. That's how the system is set up right now. And that's what we're doing. But don't forget to find your joy. And you can find your joy even in the silly little mundane things that you have to do on a daily basis.
Right. No.
Yeah.
The only reason I was laughing while you were saying that is because my wife is a Virgo and she is the same exact way. She's like, it'll be like a Saturday morning. It's like, what do you want to do? We got to clean up this. We got to clean up that. And I was like, well, I kind of wanted to just lay around and watch soccer all day, but I guess.
Yeah, I feel like that doesn't make any sense to me. I was like, why are you sick? Why do you want to lay down?
Yeah. She's like, can we at least clean up this because it's driving me crazy? I'm like, there's nobody coming over. Like, we can do it tomorrow. Like, we need to just chill. And it's like one of those things like, oh, I'm so tired. And then she'll like lay down and just out. Doesn't matter what time of day it is.
First of all, that is a miracle that she's able to fall asleep that fast because
I timed it. She can fall asleep in 6 minutes and like 25 seconds.
Okay. Girl, I'm a little bit jelly, but I absolutely adore that she has honed that down. So please give her, from me, jazz hands. It normally took me 3 hours to fall asleep. I've now gotten it down to about 20 minutes. It still is a race that I have to play with myself. It's been quite the journey. I don't also have really great dreams, unfortunately. Like I fight sleep because it's not really pleasant. I mean, I enjoy sleeping. I enjoy the resting part, but the dream part can get a little dicey.
Frequent nightmares?
No, it's just my dreams are a lot and it's usually very heavy and it's a lot of work. Like I said, constantly working.
Yeah.
I think I had one like really fun dream once, and it's when I had COVID and I was so sick, and I dreamt of like walking with a unicorn through like this animated valley, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Is this what other people get?
Yeah. I had a weird dream that I'll probably tell you after we're done recording. And I want to get your perspective on that. And I have one more question I wanted to get to, which save the best for last, astral projection.
My specialty. Yes.
When did you start doing that? What is the purpose that serves for you? Is it part of your light work that you do? Like, what is your main reason for using that ability?
So the main reason for using it is when I'm working with other people and I'm doing energy work specifically. It saves a ton on gas and also keeps the privacy, which I personally like. And a lot of people think it's really cool. I'm able to work with people all over the world. And when I do it, it's like I am there with you. I am able to be in your energy. You sense me. I'm sensing you. Most of the time I can see. I try not to be nosy. So if someone's booking a session with me, like, don't worry, I'm not judging your house. You don't need to clean for me. I mean, some people, maybe you should clean just in general. But again, the Virgo, try not to judge.
Would my animals go nuts if you did that?
Sometimes, most of the time, animals really like me. I
Okay.
actually have a video on TikTok. When I was working on someone, I guess she had cameras in our house, and you can actually, I look like an orb as I'm working on her arm, and you can see her dogs are following me.
Do you only astral project to help people, or do you ever astral project out of curiosity and was like, oh, I shouldn't have done this?
I've done that a few times in the past, got my hand slapped, learned my lesson. I happened upon a family of Bigfoot and was told very sternly, you weren't, like, don't come back here. And I felt really bad, to be honest with you, because, A, I know better. I don't do things without consent,
Mm-hmm.
especially with other people and or beings. And I wasn't really thinking. It was just kind of one of those like, oh, okay, whatever. I got some free time. Let's, go see if this is real. That being said, I never work on anyone. I don't go randomly visit people without consent. There are some people in my life that we have blatant consent. So, for instance, my aunt, if there's something that she needs, I just show up.
Mm-hmm.
And usually she'll text me and be like, thank you. And most of the time it's, she's about to fall or something like that, that I just remind her like, hey, don't put your foot there. That being said, it's not like I'm just magically popping around looking in on people. And I would never want anyone to do that to me. So I would never do that to anybody else.
Right. No, that makes sense, and I understand, like, having a boundary for that type of ability. Is astral projection limited to our time plane, or are
No.
you able to go to different time periods or different dimensions?
Yes, to all. And I can also scroll through people's memories. So I can so one of the things that I can do are memory retrievals, which have come in handy, especially lately, when people, for instance, whether it's a dream or a situation, and they know that they had it, but they're just blank on the details. I can astral project over, I connect energetically, and I can basically filter through their memories, find it, and then I can like 360 work with it. So I had one case in particular. This person was, every time they drove on their commute past this certain place, they were getting this very strange feeling, and it was freaking them out. Like, am I having a stroke here? Is this physical? What's going on? Is there, some trauma trigger that I'm not understanding? And so I was able to go back multiple times when they would hit that spot, and then 360 and see, and then energetically as well, and able to see that what was happening was a trauma trigger of this conversation they had had with someone years before that turned out explosive, and it happened right as they passed that place. So every day since that they've been commuting by, when they would hit that place, even though they didn't remember that happening there, part of them did.
I would never try to astral project because I feel like I would like get
I
lost
don't
and
recommend
never come back.
anyone just willy-nilly try it. Again, having protections in place first is vitally important, so that you're protecting your energy, you know how to ground yourself, and then from there, the abilities just come. I have never specifically taught anyone how to do it.
Mhm.
Morally, I'm not teaching anyone how to do that without like a laundry list of lessons. But I find when I work with people and we get the protection stuff down and they get their moral compass down, all of a sudden they're just able to do it.
Yeah, that's good to know, and I think it all starts with grounding and protecting yourself, and I think that's the
It
most
does.
important lesson that folks need to take when you try to open yourself up. But JJ, thank you so much for being a
Thank
guest on the
you.
show. I would love to have you back on for a part 2. There are a couple of things that I didn't get to ask you, but I think later on I would like, you said you're a psychic for like paranormal investigations. So I would like to, for the next episode, I'd like to dig into that a little bit and maybe touch upon your thoughts on the concept of like demonic, like possession and that whole, and exorcisms and all that type of stuff, just to get your perspective.
My other specialty is entity and attachment removal. That's one of my main callings. So yeah. And I'm actually going to be doing a class. I'm going to do a class on Zoom about best practices for paranormal investigations. And I'm trying to do it where I make it cheap enough that like anyone who's interested can afford it. And just spend some time on Zoom and be able to interact and ask questions and also leave with good information.
Yeah, that's awesome. And on that note, JJ, why don't you share where the people can find you and reach out to you if they would like to?
No.
No, I don't want them to. Go away.
I'm kidding. I wasn't going to say, I'm JJRose777 across the board, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You can email me. Of course, there's my YouTube page. Everything is free. There's nothing behind a paywall. I never ask anyone to like or subscribe to anything. So feel free to just check out. Everything is public, so you should be able to access all of it. I'm not monetized. There's nothing I can do about the commercials. And yes, you're a YouTube premium member. That being said, not even pushing that. I just want to give free information. If anyone has any questions, if you want to reach out, if it's something about you specifically, I appreciate email. If it's going to be something longer, so feel free. It's lightjjrose777 at Gmail. If it's something short or you just want to say hi or enjoy my my meme game online, feel free to add me on socials, and you can send me fun memes and reels. I really appreciate that stuff. So yeah, I'm very friendly. I try to just be like a friendly place for people to have access to without feeling weird.
If you're interested, go ahead and reach out to her via her email. Check out her socials. Check out her YouTube page. I know you say tell people to not follow you. Well, listeners, I'm going to tell them. Go ahead, check out her page. Give her a follow if you like.
Only if you feel led to.
Only if you feel led to. And folks, if you would like to be on the show like JJ was today, please reach out to us at twroadpodcast@gmail.com. We aim to create a safe space where we could have awesome, interesting conversations like we had with JJ today. And I love to interface with the community and hear your perspectives. And if you'd like to be on the show to talk about stuff like this or just share your opinions, go ahead and reach out to us. We love interfacing with the community. And I hope everyone enjoyed tonight's episode.
You've reached the end of tonight's journey on the Wandering Road. The show is written and produced by me, Chris, and my co-host, Dean. If you've got a scary story of your own, or if you'd like to join us as a guest, send your tale to twroadpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to follow us on social media for more haunted fun. And if you enjoyed tonight's episode, please rate, review, and share the show. It helps keep the lantern burning for fellow travelers. Until next time, keep your eyes on the road and your mind in the shadows, because the wandering never ends.